Welcome to the show. Welcome to Your Thought Life podcast. I am your host, Michael Anderson. Today we're going to be talking about recovering from past mistakes. And I know for an absolute fact this will be something that we all can relate to because we've all been there. And maybe you've said something that you regret, or maybe it was a decision that backfired, or maybe you let someone down, or perhaps even yourself. All of us have experienced mistakes, and mistakes are just simply a universal part of life. They are not to be frowned on. They are not to be flipped on their head such that they are crippling. We have to understand that they're just a part of life. In an effort to really break this down, what we need to do is understand these a bit better. And you might find yourself from time to time replaying a moment over and over and feeling weighed down by guilt or even embarrassment and sometimes even shame. This is ruminating or meditating the wrong way. This is us capitalizing or our minds seizing a snapshot in time and going over it and over it as if doing so would create some sort of change. Instead, we're going to find today some things that we can do to break free from this, to stop this whole rumination from taking place, and gain an appreciation for our awareness level such that we can see this before it even gets started. Why is it hard to move forward after a mistake? Let's start there. Let's unpack this. First, our brains are wired for negative bias. And what this means is we have a natural fixation, if you will, on negative experiences more so than positive ones, because the brain is always looking out. The mind is looking out for us and not wanting us to experience things that we've experienced in time past that were hurtful or harmful. That's really at the foundational level all this is. And I think understanding that alone will create a springboard where you can begin to swiftly move out of this place where mistakes will hold you captive. I would like for you to know that there is an emotional toll that guilt, shame, and regret have on us. These emotions, can be useful if we don't get bogged down by them, because they're telling us that we violated one of our values perhaps, or maybe we're just simply, as we've noted, dwelling on something. Each of these, when heightened, create roadblocks for us. So we need to catch these subtle signals that, hey, we're thinking about the same thing over and over. We're replaying and doing all of these what-if situations with it, when in fact, all we need to do is understand that it didn't go according to plan. We have some lessons learned. We're going to harvest the good part from it and move that into long-term retention. The part that didn't go so well, we're going to do a little bit of analysis to understand how can we do that differently the next time, and we're going to simply move forward. This is the blueprint, family, for making certain that you can recover very swiftly from past mistakes and not ruminate on them in a way that makes you feel stuck, encapsulated, enclosed, shut off, not able to be the best version of yourself. The importance of forgiving yourself and moving forward, I believe, is paramount. Some of us have a very difficult time letting ourselves, off the proverbial hook. Forgiveness is the bridge between your mistake and your growth. When you see it this way, this whole situation gets illuminated differently, such that it becomes a learning opportunity. When you forgive yourself, you're not excusing the mistake. You're accepting that you didn't hit your own mark, you didn't hit a prescribed mark, and that's quite all right, because you're human and you're not able to have mastery of every single thing that you do. There's some liberation in that in and of itself as well. But think of forgiveness as an emotional detox. Holding on to guilt and shame is like carrying around a backpack full of rocks. It's exhausting. And again, it holds you back and it prevents you from experiencing life the way you want to. Moreover, it doesn't allow you to reach your full potential. And that can be very crippling when felt over an extended period of time. I love self forgiveness. I think it's an essential part of building self trust. When you're in this space of building self trust, if you don't forgive yourself, you're much more likely to make decisions from a place of fear and doubt. But when we let go of the past, you create space for clarity, confidence, and the selection of better choices. This is what leads to a greater degree of fulfillment and is most certainly advantageous for all of us who desire to do life from our full potential. Moving forward in any situation that hasn't gone right, it allows you to accept and learn. Remember the bridge we talked about? We want to accept and learn. We do not want to ruminate and re-ruminate and re-ruminate. One yields fruit, the other does not. What would you say should be a good question if you experience this? Question like, what did this situation teach me? What have I gained from this? What can I do better next time? This is a very constructive model to help you unpack this without ruminating and carrying on in such a way that you're unwilling, for whatever reason, to forgive yourself. This is a perfect setup for allowing the past to be recovered from. I want to share with you some very practical steps in all of the content that we share. We always want you to have processes and procedures that you can do when you find yourself in the heat of the moment. One of the first things that you can begin to do if you're in a state where you need to start recovery from past mistakes is acknowledge and reflect. What's this mean? It just means you're going to own what happened. You're going to stop the rumination. You're going to own what happened. You're just going to avoid the temptation to deny or to deflect responsibility, because that only prolongs the emotional burden and it keeps you in that state, in that funk that, well, doesn't serve you. We said this once, we're going to say it differently this time. Reflect on what went wrong, why it happened, what did you learn from it, what you can do better the next time. It's much more powerful and impactful if you have a practice of journaling and you can put this in your journal with some sort of reflective heading so that in the future you want to come back and refer to this. Now you have a ready reference. The second thing that I think is really important that will allow you to move forward from a past mistake is to practice self-compassion. We made mention of this lightly, but we want to give you a couple of more nuggets to think through. I want you to treat yourself the way you treat your closest friend, your closest confidant, or the person that you're in deep relationship with. If a friend came to you upset about a mistake, you would not berate them. You would not beat them down with this. You wouldn't keep asking them just the hard part over and over and over. You just simply wouldn't do that. You would offer understanding and encouragement. This is the exact model that we need you to do for you. You deserve it. You should understand it was a learning process, and as any learning process would ensue, there's going to be some growth that takes place as a result. It's merely a typical part of life. Number 3, take corrective action. If possible, you can make amends if you've offended someone. It may be necessary for you to let yourself off the hook. It may be that you need to go and acquire some new skill sets when you get to the part that talks about how can I do this better the next time. Whatever the case is, there should be some corrective action. If that's an apology, that's totally cool. Think through the sequence that you went through, and perhaps you do the sequence differently the next time. Maybe it's about a situation that involves timing. Maybe you think through that and how can you do the timing better next time? All of these corrective measures will play out differently per situation, per circumstance. And I want you to know that you're not only rebuilding trust with others, but you're also building trust with yourself. And that self respect that you get will carry you an awful long ways. And then note that prescriptive action is the antidote to regret. The final thing I would have you take a look at if you're in the mode of recovering from past mistakes. And I say recovering, perhaps you're looking at this from a future standpoint so that you can prevent having mistakes that capture you and your attention in the wrong way for a prolonged period of time. Use the mistake as a catalyst to make some changes. We talked about action, but what systems or habits have you put in place to prevent this from happening again? When we're thinking through this, we got to be very acutely aware of what the surroundings were, what was the environment, what was the thinking, what was the situation, what were the circumstances, what were the variables that got introduced. All of this analysis, I believe, really helps us to pinpoint exactly what needs to be done for the next go round, because if you didn't get it right, there's two options here. You throw up your hands and surrender, I give up. Or you take the high ground and go, this was a learning experience, and this has been sort of the core of what we're talking about today. This has been a learning experience, and now I am prepared to learn from it. We want to know and be very intentional about what can we do different the next time. We're going to set realistic goals. We're going to remind ourselves that there was some progress, not as much as we needed. We're going to help ourselves to release from perfectionistic sensations and feelings. And we're going to reassess and create new goals. Again, realistic, achievable goals. And we're going to allow the mistake just to be a part of the journey. It's just something that happens to all of us. I totally get there are varying degrees of mistakes with varying consequences. I get that. But at the end of the day, this recipe still relieves anyone from a long-standing issue where the mistake is not allowing you to move forward, and you're in that sort of stuck state where you're still doing the rumination over and over and over, which keeps you in a mindset of low-level vibrations which do not serve you. Recovering from a mistake, again, it's not about erasing the past. It's really more about this idea of transforming it into a powerful learning experience. And I want you to remember something. You are not your mistakes. You are the person who grows stronger and wiser because of them. When we're able to reframe things like I just did, to showcase the possibility that can come out of it, the growth that can come out of it, it's much more easier for us to digest that this thing didn't go the way we wanted it to go. As we wrap up, I want you to ask yourself, what mistakes am I ready to release from today? What's one or two small steps that I can take from this podcast, apply that I can move forward? Most certainly, if you need any assistance, we are here for you. Thank you for joining us today on this episode. We truly appreciate you taking the time to listen. Feel free to connect with us on Linktree. The link is available in the show notes. You should know that you are enough. You can do it, and you are uniquely equipped to realize your goals. Until next time, take care and keep pushing forward.